Hasn't been very long since I made an update video on what's going on with upcoming books and HBO spin-offs. But just last night, author George Martin felt the need to get some things off his chest via his blog website as per usual. And he touched over a lot of different areas of his work, starting things off with an almost non-existent Winds update, more of a rant. He wrote, "Yes, of course I'm still working on the Winds of Winter. I have stated that 100 times in 100 venues. Having to restate it endlessly is just wearisome. I made a lot of progress on Winds in 2020 and less in 2021, but less is not none." It seems like the book fanbase's harassment is starting to get to him. He can't even make a single post online without someone passively aggressively asking, "Where's Winds?" or just being a straight up ass by replying, "Who cares, where's Winds?" To my surprise, he's already giving updates on the second and final volume of the Targaryen lore book, Fire and Blood. I was under the impression he wouldn't put any effort into the supplementary work until the main book series was done, because I believe he did mention that in the past, but here we are. Martin now says that a couple hundred pages are written, but there's still a long way to go. He's thinking of avoiding calling it Volume 2, and instead Blood and Fire, inversing the first volume title.
Fire and blood.
Fire and Blood are the House Targaryen words, but Blood and Fire might work now, because at the tail end of Volume 1, all the dragons went extinct in Westeros, and presumably the rest of the world. House Targaryen will have to focus on inflicting fear onto others with the emphasis on blood now, with Dragonfire no longer being an option. Then he transitions into discussing his short stories, the Dunk and Egg novellas. Martin says he needs to write more of them, but doesn't go into detail of which of the few he has in mind. Aside from the 3 already released, Martin has like 6 planned in his head with working titles, claiming that there can be even more to come. He only brings up Dunk and Egg novellas in this blog post because the spin-off surrounding the 2 characters is well underway over at HBO. Stephen Conrad is the showrunner handling this prequel. Unfortunately, I don't know much about the screenwriter, so can't add much input of his previous work. But Martin does tell us that the first season will cover the initial short story called The Hedge Knight. It's gonna have to be some short seasons because these short stories aren't very long. I'm very concerned that only hardcore fans will care about this adaptation because of the very different tone and slower pacing compared to what we see in Game of Thrones. If it fails, hope it doesn't kill hopes of other prequels. But if people do watch through the slower character moments, the payoffs are all huge and very satisfying, especially in the first and third short story. Martin felt it important to add, contrary to what you may have read online, the show will not be called Dunk and Egg, which could be mistaken for a sitcom by viewers unfamiliar with the stories. We're leaning towards a Knight of the Seven Kingdoms for the series title, though the Hedge Knight has his partisans as well. A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms doesn't roll off the tongue like the Hedge Knight. Let's see if the higher-ups at the studio will agree, cause with the cost being so low to produce this spin-off, I'm sure it'll get greenlit for at least 1 season. Aside from plans with no definitive date for more short stories, there is what Martin calls a lavish coffee table book coming later this year. It'll be an illustrated condensed version of Fire and Blood, then another supplementary publication that'll be a who's who style of book. Didn't really go into detail about this one. That covers the upcoming book updates, whether it's what you'll hope to hear or not. The focus then switches back around to the spin-off prequel shows. I have seen some comments out there questioning how much I am involved in these new series. The answer is a lot. Deeply, heavily involved in every one of the new shows. It's my world, and while I have been working closely with some fantastic writers and showrunners, ultimately it is up to me to try and keep the canon, well, canonical, and to do all that I can to help make the new shows great. Okay, so Bruno Heller, a very established screenwriter who worked on The Mentalist and the show Rome, is currently writing a pilot episode for a spin-off about Lord Corley's Valerion, a very fun and interesting character who is responsible for helping create the map we have of this world through his travels. But he's already going to be in House of the Dragon, in a very major role I should add. I don't know how to feel about this one, but it could work because it'll focus on his younger days. Again, my concern comes from the casual viewer's perspective. It won't be much of a fantasy series, with a sea captain being the main character. Amanda Siegel, who again I'm sorry I'm not too familiar with, is showrunning for another live-action prequel in the works. And it's a show I'm very excited for, about Nymeria and her 10,000 ships. Back when I first started talking about all this nerd stuff online, before any prequel was announced, This is the show I believed would work best on screen. It's such a good part of the lore, with the perfect amount of action, magic, good characters, and dragons. Amanda and Bruno will have a lot on their plate, because there isn't any source material to easily follow, just some summarized lore, dropped here and there by Martin. I don't envy them, because House of the Dragon is an almost vacation in comparison with how much Martin has written about this time period. Martin adds that Amanda has already submitted a couple drafts, and they are moving forward. I don't know if that means for just one pilot episode or an entire season, but this could be a huge hit. And now finally, we're at the last part of the update, the juiciest news, animated prequels. Over on the animated side, well, I'm not allowed to talk about most of what's happening, except to say that things are moving very fast, and I love some of the concept art I'm seeing. And wait, come to think of it, the news leaked several months ago that one of the animated shows would be set in Yeti. That's true. Our working title is The Golden Empire, and we have a great young writer on that one too, and I think the art and animation is just going to be beautiful. I would tell you more if I could. I don't think I can say a word about the other animated shows. Not yet. What? Yeti, the Golden Empire? This is the mysterious part of the world that the people of the Seven Kingdoms and us readers know almost nothing about. It's an exotic and rich region. There's clearly an Asian-inspired culture, but the writers can literally make whatever story they want for this animated show, and we'll just have to believe it's canon. Maybe they can focus on the growing threat of an evil magical cult. But even then, we have close to no lore to feed off. Could also go the classic ruling family conflict route between their god emperors. I'll be pretty excited to see what they come up with alongside George Martin's guidance. And this is just some of the prequels. Who knows how many are actually in the works? These are just the ones that are most advanced. I'm still out here pleading for an anthology series that can cover all the parts of the lore with different eras and locations. An animated show with each season covering one story would make me a very happy viewer. Anyways, all big news in my eyes. No updates for House of the Dragon, that's still slated for this year. A trailer with a release date is probably what we'll see next. I'll be sure to talk about that too in the coming months. I'll sign off with Martin's last line in the blog. In addition to all that, let me say once again, yes, I am working on Winds of Winter.